welcome all of you today to today's live monthly webcast here at Lichtsinn RV, where we're broadcasting live from our marketing studio only 1 mile north from the Winnebago factory right here in Forest City, Iowa. Today we're going to walk you through the Battle of the Bs, where we cover all three B-van models from Winnebago Industries within the Winnebago Touring Coach division of Winnebago Industries. As we do with all of our live monthly video webcasts, we're going to actually take your questions live. And that's really where we can provide the most value-added information to you that's relevant to you. If you look on the right-hand side of your screen on the chat box, you can very simply log in. You don't have to provide any information. You can log in with an anonymous ID. And this allows you to chat in your questions live, and we'll cover them as they come in as we walk through this, the Winnebago Touring Coach Travato, the Winnebago Touring Coach Era, and the all-new Paseo. As we do with every live monthly webcast, really be sure to chat in those questions because that's where we can add the most value to you. I also want to just keep in mind that we can cover a live interactive presentation on any of our in-stock RVs as we do every day with any of our factory-trained consultants. If there's something that you want to see, we can actually do a live interactive presentation with you in which our consultants are actually mic'd in on your telephone. You can log into a screen and very simply see exactly the same thing that we're seeing right north of Winnebago Industries here in Forest City, Iowa, so we can cover all those things that are important to you on any of our in-stock RVs. I also want to welcome a few valued team members here that are with us today, helping out with today's live monthly webcast on the Touring Coach lineup. Heidi Thompson is our Vice President and General Manager. She'll be taking all of our questions live and also keeping me on point, which is sometimes a challenge. Behind the camera is Hope Lichtsinn. She's our Marketing Director. And also want to welcome Sue-Ann Hadacek, who is one of our marketing specialists here at Lichtsinn RV. So again, be sure to chat in your questions, and we'll cover those as we walk through each of these three models. So with Winnebago's dominance in the B-van segment, and it's a segment that really has begun to explode because we've really opened up a much larger audience than what is the traditional camper. Winnebago's unveiled three models, and it's become a little bit more confusing now that we have the third, the Winnebago Touring Coach Paseo, which is on the new Ford Transit EcoBoost platform. So what we thought we'd do today is try to break down each of the three models, and rather than doing it on a model-by-model basis, what we thought we would do is break them down in terms of operating segments or compartments that you might be looking at in terms of your decision-making. So one of the first things that comes to mind with these is obviously base cost. The Winnebago Touring Coach Travato is the most affordable of the three models with a base MSRP of about $90,000. From there then we go to the Winnebago Touring Coach Paseo, which is approximately $25,000 more than the Winnebago Touring Coach Travato. And lastly, the Mercedes-based Era product then increases its cost a little bit higher as well because again, that is on that Mercedes-Benz fuel-efficient Sprinter chassis. So with respect to each of those three models then, you might ask yourself, so then what drives the cost? Obviously with the turbo diesel platform that is in the Era line, that'll be a 3-liter Mercedes-Benz turbocharged diesel. It does have 325 pounds-feet of torque. And so it does have a tremendous amount of low-end torque or power, which also then provides for a 5,000-pound factory-installed tow package to the rear of the Era. It is actually the narrowest of the three coaches in terms of the actual width end-to-end, but it is also the longest at 24 feet 3 inches. So it does provide more square footage inside with respect to the added length. So for example, in this, the 78 floor plan, and we do have all floor plans in stock right now, so if there's something specific that you want to see, we can do one of those live interactive presentations with any of our consultants. So for example, in the twin bed floor plan that we have here, it does allow for that front living area with the sofa in front of both of those seats that rotate to become integral lounge chairs. Are we doing a question? Good.
I have a few that we'll wait to, but one of the questions is just legroom and cab,
okay.
And wondering specifically about Paseo, but
sure.
what the difference is.
So let's get into that as we jump into that model, and let's wrap up with powertrain choices, and then we'll get into legroom. And I'm 6 feet tall, so that's a pretty good gauge for a lot of people. And so many people give me a hard time because it's such a beautiful day in Iowa. I can showcase my shorts like we did last week. So within the Paseo, Again, it's the second most affordable product. It does have a much larger, broader dealer network, so it provides for a little bit broader servicing because this is on now the gasoline-powered Ford Transit chassis with the EcoBoost powertrain. It actually has the most amount of torque or power of any of the three models at 400 pounds-feet of torque. It does still have rear wheels, rear dual wheels that some people ask about. Slightly shorter in terms of length than the Era product is. It is gasoline powered, so with the national fuel average right now running about 15% more affordable in terms of gasoline compared to diesel fuel, you can take advantage of those cost savings at the pump. Fuel economy among all three coaches is going to be very, very similar, slightly better in the Sprinter chassis compared to the two gasoline powered models. So again, this is the Paseo that is the Ford Transit EcoBoost. Tremendous amount of torque with 400 pounds-feet of torque. Real good cargo carrying capacity at about 18 to 1900 pounds depending upon how you equip it, and does also have the ability to pull 5,000 pounds. So what has become probably the most popular B van in the RV industry, this is the Winnebago Touring Coach Travato. 21 feet long, very nimble, so it's a much more manageable length, which does sacrifice a bit of livability on the inside. This is on the Ram ProMaster powertrain. Still going to have real strong torque at 260 pounds-feet of torque. It's a 280 horse front-wheel drive gasoline-powered RV. Fuel economy on these runs about 18 miles per gallon, highway driven at speeds between about 57 and 62 miles per hour based on feedback from our guests that are out on the road. Very versatile from the standpoint that we do have two floor plans with dedicated sleeping in both of those. The rear twin bed 59K and this, the 59G, with the rear full bed that actually then converts up for a tremendous amount of cargo room. So that's a pretty good overview of the powertrains, lengths, and overall approximate cost. Let's jump into a few questions. One of the questions was on legroom, specifically with respect to the Paseo.
I think so.
Correct?
And I think maybe as just a good example, Ron is 6 feet, and maybe you could get into every cab and we could at least have a visual to compare.
I can get into every cab and we can do a visual. So this is actually with the passenger seat basically hinged all the way to the rear. Chair back's at a very comfortable position. I'm 6 feet. If you really care to know, I have, I think, what is it, Hope, a 31-inch inseam? 32? So
we don't know that.
I have about 6 to 8 inches in the front seat. So tremendous amount of comfort here. This is in the Paseo. With all three of these models now, we do have easy to access entry steps on the Paseo as well as in the Travato. We have full length aluminum extruded running boards now with just incredible LED lighting underneath. And one thing that we've started to do with all of our marketing shoots online is we've started to do some blackout shots so you can just see how luminous this becomes underneath. So again, this is the Paseo. I had, what, 6 to 8 inches in the front. This is quite an interactive, y'all are asking today. Okay, so this is the Travato. Seat is fully reclined, fully extended back. I have very similar legroom, maybe a couple of inches less near this cup holder in the front, but very comfortable for a 6-foot person, again with apparently about a 32-inch inseam. So that is the Travato. Pretty good demo actually of how easy it is to swivel these seats. So this has the most amount of legroom. This is the Sprinter chassis. This is the Winnebago Touring Coach Era. Fully reclined. I've got a full foot in front of me. So just a tremendous amount of legroom. So let's keep going with questions.
Just question about the driver's side versus the passenger side. Do you think it's equivalent specifically in the Paseo?
Let's try it out since we're going everywhere today. So fully reclined. Again, I'm 6 feet, about a 32-inch inseam. One of the beauties of the Paseo is that it does have a tilt-in telescoping steering column, so it will completely fit however you prefer to drive. Tremendous amount of legroom. I can easily reach the pedals. I've got at least 4 to 5 inches near the gear speed selector column. So probably next, the next person's going to ask me to demonstrate the washroom, so you might as well jump in there next.
I could make up a bunch of questions and make this really good.
So right now I'm just Heidi's little puppet.
Just questions about some new things. So
Yep.
availability of Era 70M,
Yep.
as well as questions about future floor plans with the Paseo.
Yeah, really good questions. And just, I'll repeat the question, not to be redundant, but just so that everybody can hear it correctly. Questions on availability of floor plans, specifically the 70M, and then future floor plans in the Winnebago Touring Coach Paseo. So we currently do have all four floor plans right now for the Winnebago Touring Coach Era. The 70A twin bed model, the 70X, which includes the 4 captain's chairs up front and the ability to haul up to 7 people. We also have the 70C, which is the only B-van in the industry currently with a slide out that does include that dry bath to the rear. And then we also have the new 70M with the Murphy bed floor plan where the bed actually glides down. So that's the new floor plan for the Era. That full photo shoot will be on later this week. Within the Winnebago Touring Coach Paseo, there will be additional floor plans coming. We're probably not going to see the first one until approximately that December time frame. Possibly somewhere between September and December, but it'll be a while.
Great. I think we can transition to more cab features, specifically navigation.
You bet. Good question. So on navigation systems, the Era line, we actually replace the radio that we receive from Mercedes-Benz Sprinter, and we replace it with the infotainment center, which some of you online have seen. That's the MB9 setup. That will actually have the larger 9-inch capacitive high-definition touchscreen color monitoring system with Rand McNally RV GPS. And that will be specific to the Winnebago Touring Coach Era. Within navigation systems, the Paseo will have the Ford Sync 3 navigation system, all of which will include Bluetooth, hands-free calling, voice navigation, but also the ability to pair up your smartphone or tablet to listen to downloaded music or audio apps such as Spotify, Pandora, Radio App One. Within the Travato setup, this actually is a Ram ProMaster specific navigation system. It's a TomTom system that does include navigation up front. All 3 models will include Sirius XM satellite radio. The ProMaster includes a 6-month subscription. The Paseo Ford Transit includes a 1-year subscription, and no subscription comes right out of the gate with the infotainment center from Rand McNally with the MB9. So another compartment that we thought we would cover are just some of the ability to utilize the B-van in a segment that is outside the normal RV industry, because most of our guests are actually using these outside of traditional resorts and campgrounds. So then the question becomes, how do I actually live in a hotel camping setup or off the grid? All 3 floor plans, all 3 coaches, the Era, the Travato, and the Paseo, will all come with 2 absorbed glass mat AGM maintenance-free batteries. Group 31 batteries that are actually concealed into the chassis itself, because since they're maintenance-free, we don't have to provide ready access to our guests. All of them will come ordered with the factory installed option in terms of the inventory that we maintain. Then we do a lot of different customizations to increase that solar. Traditionally, it's a ZAMP 100-watt solar charger controller that's expandable up to 450 watts. The challenge, though, as many of you have experienced on the Travato, is the amount of real estate that we have on the roof to add additional panels. So they'll all come with additional quick ports so that we can actually utilize a portable that just utilizes a quick port that you can plug and play, an additional up to 160 watt. So we'll have all of these typically located right alongside the patio side. So you can go from 100 to 260 watts just by using a portable. We've done a lot of custom installations where we can kind of tuck 80 watt panels into about any different location that we have. It becomes a little bit more challenging on the Travato since it is only 21 feet. So typically what we've been doing are flanking the air conditioners in different nooks and crannies with different 80 watts to be able to expand solar off the grid charging of your RV batteries. Also, just a reminder, we've got a great solar webcast in which we kind of walk through what the benefits of solar are, and that's in our video archive on Lichtsinn.com. Within the Paseo, again, same setup, ZAMP 100 watt system that we can expand up to 450 watts. One great thing about the Era line now is that with the ZAMP solar option that comes on the Era 70A models, we actually go to 200 watts included from the factory. So then in conjunction with that, then we have the opportunity to also recharge those batteries either off of the alternator from the engine as the engine's running, but then also when running your gen set. So with the Winnebago Touring Coach Era being a Sprinter diesel-based product, we use a Cummins Onan 2500 watt microlight LP generator, and then both the Paseo and the Travato will have the Cummins Onan 2800 watt micro quiet gasoline generator, both of which will sip gasoline off the top 3/4 of the fuel tank.
I think just to finish up on solar, just a specific question that came in pretty early about the Travato and the 59K and roof racks. We're actually just working through this with one of our guests. I think Dana's getting a 59K, is she not?
Correct.
Yep. So she wanted more solar, and they're wondering, you know, more room with or without racks, and we're customizing that with her, and she's ending up with 2 additional 80 watt panels.
Yeah, and one question that comes along with that, and we do have the Paseo here with the rack system. What we typically do with those ZAMP panels, which is also what Winnebago will do, is we'll mount those just slightly under the surface of that Summit rack system, so that as you are placing things atop there, you can still have maximum access to that rack system, but we'll subsurface those just probably a 1/2 inch below that rack line so that you can still make maximum use of those luggage racks. Typically when you get to your destination anyway, you're removing what might possibly be up there, which will expose then that ZAMP 100 or 200 watt solar system, because you don't have any obstructions from whatever cargo you had up there. Which makes a lot of sense, because as you're traveling down the road, obviously the alternator off the Powertrain is recharging all 3 of your batteries, the dual RV batteries as well as the chassis battery.
And then sticking with the Travato 59K, wondering if we can add an auto gen start that will kick in if shore power would fail for pets and concerns in that area.
You bet. So actually with any of the generators, Cummins Onan actually does make an automatic generator start system. We tend to favor the hardwired systems a lot more than the wireless setups. The wireless setups have tended to provide some obstructions and interference with different technology that you might be carrying alongside your RV. So we tend to favor the hardwired installations. We can do that with the Cummins Onan 2800 watt micro quiet gasoline generator, and we can do that with the 2500 watt micro light LP generator on the Era line, again because that's a diesel powered product.
Questions about inverter, and can we add a pass-through inverter?
Yeah, great question. And the question was, can we add an inverter? And we also have a live webcast that we have archived in our video library where we covered inverters and converters. And just to explain what an inverter does is it allows you to take your electrical appliances and run those off of your battery pack. So if you have the 2 AGM absorbed glass mat group 31 batteries, we can run household appliances off of those. Good examples, people might be traveling with smartphone chargers, tablet chargers, CPAP, BPAP machines. The reality to all 3 of these coaches is they're really designed to run off the grid, so to speak. So there's very few appliances within the RV that actually do require electricity. Obviously the rooftop air conditioners do, the microwave and convection ovens do if it has a convection oven, and then all of your outlets. We can add inverters to any RV. And so what that'll allow you to do is select and customize with our service team which 110 volt outlets you would like to be hot off of your RV batteries. we will always recommend that we bypass the air conditioner if possible, because that does throw a load and it can throw a breaker. However, with some knowledge, and if you choose not to do that, which is what we're doing with another guest, we can certainly accommodate that for you as well. But we have done up to 2,000 watt inverters. I think we even had one that might have been as high as 2,800 watt. But really, it depends on what you're going to power off of your battery bank. That might be an electrical appliance, so that we can size that inverter correctly. And then determining whether or not you need a sine wave, a modified sine wave, or a pure sine wave inverter, depending upon how delicate and pricey that technology is that you want to run off of the inverter. But we get great lifespans out of an inverter. One common question that we get is, can we run a CPAP or a BPAP machine for 8 hours at night off the batteries? And we've had great success with that. Running with a fully charged set of batteries, we can run that CPAP, BPAP machine all night long.
I have just some miscellaneous questions to get through before we start a new section. So, can the Travato be built without the exterior speakers?
Good question. We had this question from a guest, maybe the same one. We could do that. We would need to order it that way, so that Winnebago would not drill in the exterior speakers. Although the exterior speakers, unless it's a styling issue that you might have, and hope if you just want to slide over and cover those. Absolutely no dependability issues in terms of water permeation. If you never plan on using them or just don't like the way that they look, we could order one and then just not have Winnebago drill them in. But again, that would have to be a custom order.
Wondering what the new floor plan in the Paseo will be, Ron.
If I knew, I would probably shriek Winnebago Industries and tell you, but I don't know what it is right now in terms of what the new floor plan is in the Paseo. But again, it's a good probably 6 to 9 months away.
And then my favorite question, what is hotel camping, Ron?
Just camping without, basically camping wherever you'd like, without any hookups, without any power, without any electricity.
That stems from your former corporate world of hotel officing, right?
Sure. Yeah. I've been trying to get everybody here to hotel office at Lichtsinn RV. Good questions though today, and that's really what allows us to provide so much value to you, but also provide value for people that are watching this in our archive, because we have all of our videos archived in our video library on lichtsinn.com, and there's a great amount of content in there, including content from other OEMs and suppliers that we actually utilize. Okay, so a couple things that are common to all three coaches now, and just so that you know, all of the models that we have here today include the latest in running line change enhancements. So these are the latest and greatest that Winnebago has provided. One thing that we did want to cover today are the Colorado Carefree armless powered patio awnings. You can see that none of these three awnings actually have any feet that would collapse against the sidewall of the RV or that would potentially go in the ground. So these are the longest in the RV industry. Most of them, depending on the floor plan, are around 13 feet. They're very simple, one touch out, one touch retract. They all include dedicated LED lighting. All three B-band models from Winnebago will now include LED lighting, which is about 70% more energy efficient compared to normal incandescent or halogen lighting. But what's also unique about these is they do have a vibration sensor integrated into them, so that if high winds pick up and you're away from your RV, they will retract on their own. So a great feature with the new Colorado Carefree. This is the Freedom that we covered in last month's webcast as well. That is now common to all three RVs. I mentioned earlier, within the Paseo as well as in the Travato, we now use full-length integrated running boards, which include LED lighting both on the patio side as well as on the driver's side. And it really provides a lot of light when you're trying to return to your RV and trying to find it. So we covered a little bit in terms of lengths and widths, and that is one thing that typically people really tend to focus on in terms of making a buying decision. So the Travato being the most nimble at 21 feet, the Winnebago Touring Coach Era at 24 feet 3 inches, and then the Paseo lies right there within the middle at 22.3? 22.4.
22.1.
22.1.
And we want to go over widths. So,
okay. Take it away.
Okay, so Era, I'm holding too much stuff here.
So the
We've
Era,
got 6'4". Paseo a foot long, wider at 7'4", and then 6'9" on the Travato. So Paseo wins with if you're going for wider.
That's a setup for a really bad joke. So you can look in terms of livability with respect to that, because it'll depend upon the floor plan in terms of what type of usability we make out of that width or that length. One of the advantages that people tend to migrate towards with respect to the Era is because you can actually get segregated living, because we have a dedicated living area compared to a dedicated sleeping area, which is pretty rare in a B-van. Typically a B-van is the perfect Swiss Army knife. You can use it for so many different purposes. But typically those living areas are also your sleeping areas. So that is one advantage to the Era 70A, which does have the rear twin beds to the rear, but also a sofa living area up front. We get this question a lot in terms of what do I use for lounge chairs when I'm inside the RV. So with respect to the Travato and the Era, both of the front seats will rotate to become integral lounge chairs. We do have a limitation from Ford Motor Company in the Transit line. Currently only the passenger or patio side seat swivels. We're not aware of any change for that in the future to make the driver's seat swivel. Obviously if it did, we would change our floor plans a little bit accordingly. We did also, in our internet listings page for the Paseo, we did some nice breakdowns compared to the CrossFit product, which also debuted last December. There's some really good comparisons in that internet listings video, also on our blog on Lichtsinn.com, and then also in the archive video library webcast, in which we compared the Winnebago Touring Coach Paseo to the Coachman CrossFit, because there are some very substantial differences between that product and the Paseo from Winnebago Industries.
Just a general question about road noise between the three.
Good question. The question was road noise between the three. To be completely honest with you, I think it's very, very similar. It's very, very quiet, and I think that stems from the fact that this is a true B-van shell, which means the manufacturer is not taking a cutaway chassis. It is the same cargo van that you may see UPS and FedEx utilizing, so very well insulated. You could tend to argue that with the Era line, you may get slightly less wind noise, but I think it's negligible. I think you make your decision based on floor plan and performance, budget, and how you're going to utilize the RV as opposed to wind noise. The Era line tends to be just a little bit quieter. Again, it is a diesel-powered coach, so with 325 pounds-feet of torque, it then has 188 horsepower. So typically what drives engine howl or noise is high-horse engines. And so with only 188 horses, but so much low-end torque, that's where you'll actually probably receive slightly quieter performance in the Mercedes Sprinter-based Era line.
I have a bunch of miscellaneous again. So
awesome.
Just wondering, on the Travato 59G, the area above the Jensen radio is solid. Is there a door over the cubby there now?
Actually, it's open, and that's one of the 2017 marketing lines or slang lines that you see on the internet forums of one of the 2017 and a half changes, although there isn't any such thing as a 2017 and a half. It is open over the home theater system now. That was a change that was made to the 59G. If you'd like a door added to it, we could certainly probably produce one, but right now it's open storage, whereas in the past it was completely sealed off and there was no storage whatsoever. But a good question. Again, that was the question on the storage above the Jensen home theater setup in the Travato.
Wondering, back to AutoGen Star, when others, is there a timer so you're able to avoid campground sleeping and that kind of thing?
Yeah, good question. The question was back to the automatic generator start system from Cummins Onan, and of course we've got a video for that. We actually have a video of how to program your Cummins Onan automatic generator start system. It's actually one of our most popular videos, where we walk you through how to program the ability to restore electrical power to your RV if it actually loses power. So if you lose power at your home, your resort, your campground, it'll automatically fire the gen. It also monitors your battery levels. So it will reserve enough power to fire that generator. It will then start itself, charge those batteries, but then also turn itself off when those batteries are charged. Both of those characteristics we can do with off generator hours. So if you're in a national park system and you have resort hours that say you have to have your generator off between 10 and 6, those are all programmable that way as well. And all of those programming are in that video, in our video library on lichtsinn.com.
Okay, just a couple questions I'll mention, and then we can make sure to cover it as we go inside. They do want you to give some visual comparison on bathrooms, so thank you for that. And then also, just wondering about 12-volt plug-ins near bedrooms for CPAP machines and such, and accessibility. How long is the wait for a custom order?
Okay. So let's cover those, and please don't let me forget which ones I did not cover. We're going to jump into bathrooms here in a second, but the easy one to knock out there are multiple power points near all of your bed locations. And Russ Garfin and his team at Winnebago Industries have done a wonderful job of knowing how RVers use their products. And near all of the sleeping surfaces, you're going to find 12-volt USB or 12-volt hollow channel, 12-volt power point setups. Most CPAP and BPAP machines are 110-volt appliances, though, so we would need either the ability to run your generator or to install an inverter for you. Some inverters can very simply be the 12-volt plug-and-play inverters. We would just want to size what type of a CPAP, BPAP machine you have with the size of that inverter to ensure that it's adequate to power throughout the night, but then also to ensure that it is a pure sine wave inverter, because CPAP and BPAP technology tends to be a little bit delicate and does definitely want clean power. So those are all available near each of the sleeping surfaces. So the setup was for me to go into the bathroom for each one, and as we did that, there was a third question around
just custom order time.
Custom order. Okay, so custom order time frame right now for a Travato is out to the May-June time frame. But we do have great supply inbound right now, and we can make changes to those. So one of the beauties of this is in the Paseo 48P floor plan. One of the advantages to this coach is a very low step-in height compared to the Coachman CrossFit. So very low step-in height to the bathroom. Tremendous amount of room, all of which will have residential height-style toilets, so I don't need to get on one. But if somebody wants me to, I will. Great size inside the bath of the 48P, very low step-in height. Does also have the tambour door to provide privacy inside the bath in one. Also conveniently located right near your entry door. So the one coach that we actually don't have in the studio today, but we do have in stock, is the 70C and the 70M. Those actually have dedicated dry baths per se, which means you don't necessarily have to shower over your toilet area. They have dedicated showers. Whereas all three of these that we'll be in today are actually all bath in ones or wet baths or marine baths, as you may see the reference to. Okay, so we're in the Winnebago Touring Coach Era 70A. This does include the bifold door. A little less room compared to the 48P Paseo. Does have a dedicated stainless steel sink now with a dedicated faucet, whereas in the past, the flexible handheld shower head would actually slide into the actual faucet itself. Dedicated with non-scalding mixing valves inside the bath and one shower. Again, a residential height style toilet, but a little bit less room compared to the Paseo. I'll let you go. And whoever asked this question are laughing right now, saying he actually did it.
They did now request that you did not get on the toilet.
To not do that?
No.
Well, now I just will. Other miscellaneous questions as I'm going
Just
through?
also order time frame for a Canadian, if that changes anything.
It does change slightly, but the time frame is very similar. Typically, the Canadian chassis are on an order basis from Winnebago, so generally they are a little bit longer time frames. But with the amount of volume that Winnebago has right now, our order time frames are a little bit longer on all B vans. Okay, so this happens to be a 59G Travato. Very similar space compared to the 48P. Does have that residential height style toilet, tambour door, dry dock storage. This actually does have the flexible hose that's in the faucet that I was referring to earlier. So it actually uses the same faucet as your sink. One nice thing about the Travato line, actually in both floor plans, a very comfortable Froley Deluxe sleep system. These are independent adjustable firmness springs. Nice thing about this is it provides so much fresh air ventilation, alleviates any mold or mildew, but also keeps your mattresses cool. So again, that's the Froley Deluxe sleep system. Watch your stuff going up.
I have some good questions just to pause on. Can you just talk about the 4x4 option on the Era?
You bet. So the 4x4 is an option on the Winnebago Touring Coach Era, which is the Sprinter line. It's the only 4x4 option that comes from the factory, although there are some aftermarket accessory companies towards the Rockies and the West Coast that will actually convert a chassis that's not four-wheel drive to four-wheel drive. But from the factory, the 70A and the 70X floor plans, so the A twin bed model, and then also the X, which is the quad chairs that'll haul 7 people, those are both available as a 4x4. Time frame is similar to what we've talked about before, which is actually just coincidentally because there is so much volume, the overall lead times are a little bit longer than they have been in the past. That does add 2 inches of overall height. It is an on-demand all-wheel drive setup in the 4x4, so it's not a selectable 4x4.
And our opinion or impression of the actual off-road capability that it would provide?
Yeah, very strong. I mean, it's an 11,030 pound chassis, so you've got a lot of weight over an all-wheel drive setup. So off-road capability, I think, is phenomenal. It also sits up a little bit higher for greater ground clearance. We don't have a lot of people out on the road on 4x4s. It's a fairly expensive upgrade. And for the ones that do have it, they're the ones that are truly going off-grade to where they're actually going to need it. So when they do, there's so much gross vehicle weight rating over that all-wheel drive powertrain that it does perform very, very well.
Some of the blogs, this guest has seen some bad rap with the awning, and any way to get an old style installed, or is that something that's prevalent, I guess?
So the question was just reading some bad reviews of the Colorado Carefree awning, which, to be honest with you, the people that we've spoken with that have them out on the road absolutely love them. Armless, very easy to use, one touch, no dependability issues. And that's one thing about reading internet blogs and forums that you kind of have to take with a grain of salt. You're going to see a magnification of a very low percentage of adverse situations. You really have to appeal to the masses and really look at a dealership that has that exposure to that much volume that can provide you an unbiased opinion. I mean, if these awnings weren't performing correctly, I would tell you the 2 guys that rep it are good friends of ours. They'd hear it and are probably watching right now. And so if there was an issue, we would certainly talk about why, so to speak.
Any chance to have sights windows versus traditional windows on any of these models?
Yeah, so the question was the Euro Sights dual pane property windows, which are the acrylic windows, wanting to know whether or not they're an option on any of these, and currently they are not, and not any plans in the future. And I don't know exactly the reason why. If it is the fact that it is a true B-van and there's such exposure to glass windows that Winnebago would want to ensure that the safety is #1 priority. I don't know, but it's not an option on any of those. Still have tremendous gross vehicle weight rating with cargo carrying capacity levels in all 3 coaches. We've never had a cargo carrying capacity issue in a B-van because typically with anywhere from 1,600 to 19 to 2,000 pounds of cargo carrying capacity and freshwater tanks in kind of that 25 to 35 gallon range, we don't have any cargo carrying capacity constraints, so to speak.
Wondering about Paseo windows in the living area, if they could be changed out so they were more of a jalousie or crank-out style that could be open during rain.
Yeah, and there is not any change that could be made to any windows on any of the B-vans. Wanting to know if we could swap out windows in a Paseo.
This guest, when you were talking about parking this anywhere, they find that the Era is a nice way to tour, so they don't have to plan and stay in formal campgrounds. And the question is, can you really just sleep in it on city streets or mall parking lots, etc.? Or what are the social rules and regulations regarding that?
Actually, I mean, you literally can, as long as the Walmart, if the city rest stop, If they allow it, you are welcome to stay overnight wherever. In fact, you can go onto Walmart's website as an example and find different Walmarts that are RV friendly. It's great security for that retail establishment. It also generates revenue, so it's a win-win. And you see a lot of that. If you look around North Iowa, you'll see a lot of delivery drivers leaving, which is why so many people come to us, because they can take advantage of a factory fresh coach. But yes, if you want to hotel camp, dry camp, go off the grid, as long as it's allowed, it's perfectly normal.
Did the height profile change with the new Mach 10s?
Oh, good question. Yeah, so in the Travato line, we went from a Coleman Mach 8 to a Coleman Mach 10. The two benefits was that it utilizes a little bit less power upon startup, so you don't have that surge on your generator or on your 30 amp electrical service, but also slightly quieter outside the coach, not necessarily quieter inside. And there was no change to the height when we went from the Coleman Mach 8 to the Coleman Mach 10 in the second running line change revision, which some people will refer to as the 2017 and a half, which is actually what this coach is.
Just to get this log, there's some good dialogue going on in chat just regarding Travatos and having the ground clearance increased, and can you do that? And another guest answered that you can get sumo springs that would increase it by about an inch.
Yeah, so you can actually swap out sumo springs for the factory springs. We don't do a lot of that. We have very, very few instances where we don't have ground height clearance with the Winnebago Travato. If anything, guests have had issues if they have a significant incline with the drainage center, which is alongside the driver's side over here. But the one thing to keep in mind is I think sometimes these are overstated. Obviously, if you have a significant grade, we want to accommodate that for you. But the one thing to remember about where all of our drainage systems and generator exhaust points are is they're all mounted right near the axle. And so if you think about it, yes, you have that ground clearance height right now, but when you actually change grades, this coach is going to rise up with the jounce that comes off of the rear axle. So that's why we mount those so close to the axle, so that they're rising and gliding actually with the change in elevation. So again, kind of a minority, but certainly an option to swap out the springs on a ProMaster to sumo springs.
Probably could go over, unless you already did, some information on pitch capacity, and then your impression of sound for heating and air conditioning systems. Yep.
So great questions. The first question was on towing. So we're here on the rear of the Winnebago Travato. This coach actually has a 3,500 pound factory installed tow package with a vertical tongue weight of 350 pounds. The Paseo and the Era will both be 5,000 pounds. So you'll get a little bit more towing. They also have more torque. But quite honestly, most people are not towing cars behind V-vans. They're typically looking for vertical tongue weight for additional storage pods, bike rack carriers, or in some cases spare tire carriers with respect to the Travato. Then touching on heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems. So with all three of these models now, the Travato, the Paseo, and the Era, with the exception of the slide-out model, we're using the Truma Combi heating and hot water air delivery system. So basically it's a 110 electric as well as LP setup. It uses dual 850 watt elements to provide continuous unlimited hot water as well as your replacement for your furnace. Now on the Era 70C and the 70M, in the 70C we actually use a hydronic system from Aldi, and then with the 70M it will actually go to the Truma Combi system as well. The question though really was with respect to how quiet it is. So Winnebago partners with Truma, and they actually have quiet tuned insulated ducts that are specific for the Truma system that we pointed out actually last month, but hope you can actually see those as well, that are tuned for the coach itself. You can actually see one underneath the fridge right back there. They're actually quiet tuned insulated ducts to be absolutely whisper quiet. So again, that's the Truma Combi system. That's what we'll utilize in the Travato, both floor plans. as well as the Paseo, and all models in the Era line except for the 70C, in which we use the Aldi hydronic system. But good question on HVAC systems and plumbing systems.
A question that will let us answer some questions about paint. Travato, we have this in a deluxe paint, and they're wondering if the black around the windows is actually paint or a decal.
Okay, good question. So this coach actually has an option, which is the deluxe feature package on the outside, and what that does is it actually paints all of this area in black, and that actually is painted. And then it also paints the front and the rear bumpers. So it provides more of a monochromatic look, all one color, unibody construction, with the rear bumper as well as all of the wheel well housings that would be painted. So this is the bright silver deluxe feature package on the Travato. By contrast, that would look like this if we swivel around in the Paseo. This is actually the type of cladding that you would see if you didn't option for that package, and then you'd also lose the black paint in the middle around the windows. Really what that's trying to do is provide more of an automotive appearance with the deluxe feature package on the Travato.
And then you can maybe just finish with Era paint options.
Yep, so the Winnebago Touring Coach Era has two different paint options. Brilliant silver, and then this, the graphite exterior. The graphite exterior now standard is going to come with the automotive package, so there's no upgrade for that. And then also the stainless steel valance that you can actually see on all three coaches.
I have a little run up of questions again. And Keith, you might have to clarify for me, I'm not sure. On a 59K, how much clearance between the rear right wall and the rear door? Does that make sense to you?
I can provide the width between, if a 59K, if you're talking about the walkway between the twin beds.
Keith, if you don't mind typing in just a little bit more on that, and I'll decipher that for Ron. Can you get the Paseo with a Ford Transit diesel?
Good question. And currently the Paseo is only offered in the EcoBoost gasoline-powered chassis. I'm not aware of any option changes coming in the future. But really the benefit to that is 400 pounds-feet of torque, great fuel economy. We have people averaging 16, 17 miles per gallon highway. And then you can take advantage of those gasoline prices, which are about 15% below diesel prices right now.
And then compare and contrast if you would two things. On all three of these, what screen options do we have for side and rear? Okay. And then what options do we have for roof racks, bike racks?
Great question. Yeah, so great question. The first meaning privacy, I'm assuming, in the cockpit?
Not for bugs. No, side screens, rear screen for bug control if the door is open.
Got it, okay. So let's touch on that. So side screen or rear screen. We actually have that for all three models now. The very similar setup amongst all three will be this aluminum extruded screen door. And then we also pair up this area, which is where the pull-up workstation is, for the passenger side seat that rotates to become a lounge chair. We have rear screen snaps then. It's a little bit different in the rear of an Era, and sorry to bounce around here. It'll be the same side screen door, but in the Winnebago Touring Coach Era, we actually integrate a similar setup to the side as we do in the rear. So this is your insect screen, and then also your solar that actually integrates into the rear wall of the Era product. So a little bit different in this setup with the Paseo, and then also with the Travato, there'll be snap-in screens for rear screens. Up front, we actually have the Remy blinds, if the question was related to solar privacy or for blackout at night. We actually have the Remy cab window blind option in the Era, and then we actually have facade panels for the other two, for the Paseo and for the Travato. The question that came after that then was to compare and contrast rack systems. So not a lot of options at all in the Era. Everything would have to be done on an aftermarket basis. But with respect to the Paseo and the Travato, they both will be the Summit rack system, which includes the storage rack on the roof, but then also the rear ladder. And we've got some great demonstrations on the vehicle display page for the Paseo and also for Travatos, in which this ladder then separates, and you can have multi-point attachments all the way around, even the awning side if you're careful, but also along for multi-point adjustments. So you can actually access any point of that rack system that's up on the roof. So this just separates from the rear door, and you can utilize multiple adjustable attachment points.
Great, and Keith, thank you for clarifying that. So wondering about back exterior wall of the shower and the rear door, the kind of the clearance between there when that back cargo door is closed.
Yep, and Keith, that's a really great question, wanting to know how much clearance there is, width, and then also depth in a 59K Travato, and I would really want to get you exact measurements. So if you just chat into our page on Lichtsinn.com or shoot us an email at sales@Lichtsinn.com, we can actually CAD all that out for you. We don't actually have a 59K in the studio right now. We actually have the 59G in the Travato. But let's get you exact measurements rather than approximating. So just shoot us a note, shoot us an email, and we can provide you exact measurements on that for the twin bed 59K.
Can drop-down beds be added to any of the vans?
Yeah, good question. Wanting to know if we can add drop-down beds. Everything would have to be done on an aftermarket basis, keeping in mind that since it is a B van, you do have limited clearance. None of our models currently offer drop-down beds. There are some aftermarket accessories that you can do for 70X beds at an Era in terms of converting those captain's chairs to different sleeping surfaces. I saw a really cool hammock setup that was utilized for different children in a 70X Era. There's a lot of different aftermarkets out there, but not any drop-down beds, and really the sleeping surfaces that you see on the floor plans are the dedicated sleeping surfaces from Winnebago.
Now it's the stumper round, so we'll see.
You're the one with the computer, so.
What is the decibel rating for this Era 70A when the AC is running?
That's a good question. I actually have a decibel meter on my phone, so again, if you want to chat that in, just a contact point, an email address, I can run that test for you and get it inside. No problem. The question was decibel rating for noise of the air conditioner in an Era 70X?
70A.
70A, I'm sorry.
And do we have storage capacities on Eras for 70A specifically? Not with us.
We won't actually have any interior cubic footage measurements, and since it is a V van, there won't be any published exterior.
Maybe this person saw one of our last videos. Can Ron sleep on the Paseo bed? It seems to be a bit short. We actually tested that with 2 people.
We did, actually, and I can lay on that bed, but more important than that, if you go to our Paseo walk-around video on our vehicle display page, Jason Brookoff, one of our factory-trained consultants, is actually 6 feet 4 inches and actually can lay flat on the one side of it. So that's probably a more applicable video for you, but again, up to 6'4", very, very comfortable. There's also a great video on YouTube from one of our guests, Don Meyer. Don is a celebrity who does a lot of videos on the Paseo. He did a great sleeping video that's out there as well, so thank you for that, Don.
This is a good one to end on. Do these vans hold their value?
Absolutely. Great question. Wanting to know whether or not vans hold their value. One thing that is probably the most analytical or provides the most amount of evidence as opposed to having a dealer tell you whether or not they hold their value is if you look at NADA book values, you're going to find that typically retail values for how B vans hold their values are much higher than book values. And you can very simply evidence that by going to any of the national classified sites and comparing them to book values. They hold their value very, very well. Actually, it's a very affordable investment to get into RVing and to utilize these products. They're expected to have slightly higher miles upon resale, just based on how the audience is using the RV. So yes, absolutely strong resale values for a B van in general. And actually with Winnebago, you can find some evidence on the internet in terms of how Winnebago RVs hold their value higher than any other RV manufacturer in the RV industry as a percentage of original MSRP. So again, we want to thank all of you for joining us today and providing us such great questions as we walk through the entire B van lineup that Winnebago has come to dominate within the RV industry. We covered the Winnebago Touring Coach Paseo, we covered the Winnebago Touring Coach Travato, and then also the Winnebago Touring Coach Era. Again, all 3 B van models from Winnebago Industries, 2 gasoline, 1 diesel. Check out all of our internet listings pages where we have full high-definition walk-through videos on each of those. But also keep in mind that if there is something specific that you want to see us demonstrate, you can actually just chat into any of our factory-trained consultants, and we can do the same type of a high-definition interactive presentation on any of our in-stock RVs, which we do on a daily basis, so it's very common for us. So we can do basically a virtual appointment in the comfort of your own home or office. We can conference in a partner or a spouse for a great three-way dialogue on any of our in-stock RVs. Again, we're broadcasting live today from our marketing studio, which is only 1 mile north of the Winnebago factory, right here in Forest City, Iowa. I want to thank Hope, Suanne, and Heidi also for helping us out today here at Lichtsinn RV.